Welcome to the Bishkek Peak. Dear participants of our day's lunch and learn session. I very glad to see you here. And hello for all ladies and gentlemen who connected us by the link. And I will say a couple words about the Peak. Peak is the Business Innovation Center for promotion the business and help to startups to accelerate, to grow in Kyrgyz Republic. This project founded by the UK. And what's the purpose? What's the goal of this project? So. One minute, please. Презентация. Там презентация. Нет, PowerPoint. So, sorry for small technical issue. So, Big Bishkek funded by UK. We had I have my personal experience to make in making the startups. So, what I found, I have related with the Total Fund brand and Uman brand. And one time I tried to make this startup from zero with my partners, investors, and of course I faced a big number of questions: how to make it, how to do it, how to solve some specific situations. For example, how to make the relationship with the founders, how to make the relationship with the market, and all this question was without the answers. And that's why I tried to find the answers by my own approach, and it was a big number of mistakes on this way, big number of problems, and so step by step I started to understand how to do it. Some projects were stopped, some projects were running this time, and that's why what I understood that in Kyrgyzstan we have a so small number of special programs which can help to startups, which can help to business. And that's why I think the number of organizations which will help with business acceleration, business incubation is very important for Kyrgyzstan. And by this goal, the Peak was founded, created. Official opening of Peak was in the February 13. And this official opening was with officials from Great Britain, His Majesty Ambassador, and of course the representatives of Kyrgyz government. And we are making such activities like the workshops, trainings, and if you track it before it on the social media and website, maybe you saw these announcements. And what's a Peak? Peak is this office. This office capacity 100 people. They are the environment for making the business co-working zone for participants of our programs. And there you can participate, apply to business acceleration, business incubation programs. And by this you can participate for world-class high level content. You can find the specific knowledge for making your business, for growth your business. You can find here the answers for your questions, how to win the growth disease of your business. So we are creating the investor database, and we will help you with the networking with investors. And of course, you can find here the business advisors and mentors. Also, you can connect, if you are our participant of our regular programs, you can connect with the electronic platform. By this, you can have access to the content in the different kinds of formats. So our partners, DIA Europe organization, which is helping us to run this project, big. Other partners, Venture Hive is the United States-based company, which big experience in the business acceleration in all over the world, with connection in 160 countries. And we will, you will see, we will have a possibilities to hear, listen, the workshop from Susan Amat, founder of Venture Hive, now, after this small presentation. Our partner, International Lab, University of Central Asia, and University of Cambridge. It's our team. It's me, Iskender Bishkek, I'm the director of FP. Danyar, the program and content manager, Asel, and Nazgul. Please come to our office and feel at our office as at home. Couple words very shortly. Danyar will explain our programs. Please, Danyar.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Danyar. I'm content and program manager. As you can see, here we're running at this moment one acceleration program, which is focused on IT. So it's a 12-week program, and we have about 12 tech startups in our cohort. In April, we will finish this program by demo day. And at this time, we're also working on our acceleration program, which is for owners of MSMEs. So we are planning to start an application call in end of March, and the program itself will start in May. So, and also we have another incubation program, 1 month incubation program for those who just have an idea and want to create a product. And we're planning its program, this will start in July. So the application process will start in May. So if you want to join, if your friends or colleagues want to join to this program, please ask questions and follow us on Facebook or other sources. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. So these are our social media links. You can shoot this and use the QR code reader for connecting to our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and our website. So please subscribe and make the push notifications and track our activity. You will find a lot of events which will be useful for you. So for now, I want to give the word to Susan. 1 minute.
Yeah, I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. So you're going to have to turn off your mic.
Yes, we can.
Single mic. Perfect.
Okay.
Great. So I'm going to share my screen and close this up. And can you see my screen okay?
Yes, we can.
Perfect.
Yes.
So hi, everybody. I'm Susan Amat. I founded Venture Hive 8 years ago with a very simple goal. We wanted to make sure that companies anywhere in the world had access to top quality programming and education so that they could create their dreams from wherever they lived in the world and didn't have to worry about moving to another place to make it happen. And we're thrilled to have such a wonderful partnership with the Peaks. The team in Bishkek is fantastic, and there's a team in Dushanbe as well. So hopefully there'll be a lot of cross-work soon, so you'll be able to take advantage of all the opportunities across CIS working with the Peak network. So with that, can you guys make sure there's only one mic on so that we don't get that echo I'm getting? Cool. Can you hear okay? Great. So the theme of today is networking. And one of the challenges we have, especially now because there's a pandemic, is how do we make the most of creating a large network for ourselves, our company, our leads, and make sure that we are targeted in the work we're doing, make sure we get the results we need to do, but really at the core of it, it's all about setting the goals. So the norm is we have an event to go to, right? Whether it's a business forum that hopefully will happen really soon, a networking event, even an event like this. There might be 5 people in the room, 200 people in the room. It all comes down to you deciding, here's what I want to get out of the event. So for a large conference, usually you'll have a very clear concept of who's going to be there and why. And your job way before you go. So if it's a huge conference and there's going to be a ton of people there, maybe a month before you go, maybe even longer, you're going to research who's there, why, etc. But there has to be a reason you're going to a big event. What is drawing you there? Is it because there's going to be a bunch of potential suppliers? Are you going to learn from a bunch of companies that might be doing similar things, might be competitors, maybe potential customers? What's the goal? So this is all about creating as much clarity about what you want to get out of everyone you touch base with as possible from the beginning. So for big events, know what the big picture goal is. For small events, a small networking event, a workshop, there may only be one person in the room that you really need to connect with, but what's the goal there? It may be that you want to talk to the speaker about connecting to one of their partners or clients or them themselves. It may be somebody else in the room might be doing something similar and you want to find out how they dealt with this specific challenge that you may be facing right now. So go into every event with a very clear goal. And a lot of the people that I know, and it's definitely my goal when I go into events, let's say it's a conference, before I go, I have a very clear picture of the 2, 3, 4 speakers or people who are being brought in for the conference that may not be a normal participant in the conference, depending on the size of the conference. And then I try to have one really strong connection per half day. So I go to a lot of really big 2- and 3-day conferences that are international that may have 5 to 20,000+ people attending. And my goal is not to just collect 500 business cards because it's really challenging to follow up with those kind of people. The booth that my team runs, we may have 500 or 1,000 business cards, but my goal is usually very targeted. I want to make sure I make a deep connection with someone. That doesn't mean meeting them for 2 minutes. Hi, it's cool to meet you. What's up? Here's what we do. It's really getting a chance to talk to them. That means a breakfast meeting, a coffee meeting, a lunch meeting, 1 or 2 afternoon coffee meetings, having a good half hour, 45 minutes to spend with people. And usually that requires planning in advance. So we'll talk about that as we go through these. So at least one person in an event may be your potential client, partner, etc. That means that we need to know exactly who we're targeting and why, so that our messaging of what we're saying, what we're displaying, literally even how we introduce ourselves is completely targeted for that end goal. If it's a potential partner, you're going to have a very different pitch than if it's potential sale. So really deeply understanding who these people are, what the background is, will make your life really easy. And ideally, a lot of the meetings that you may be setting up, if you already know they're going to be there, you can set those meetings up a month in advance. There are sometimes conferences where I have 10 meetings booked over a day, set up weeks in advance. I know everything about that person. Sometimes I even have a pre-call with them. So our time together live is not just the basics meet and greet. So do your research. Again, depending on the conference, you can probably gather who will attend the event. At the very basic, you know who the speakers will be. Sometimes the event organizers either publish a list of attendees. You can call beforehand and say, is anybody from this company or this industry or anybody from this region coming? When you get the list of names and you understand, again, going back to what's the goal. So it's really counterproductive to start with who are the attendees. I'm going to make my goal from that. Go in with this is the main thing I want to accomplish. If you find out that some very specific person is going to be there that may have nothing to do with your goal, maybe a long-term play you're working on, great. But that doesn't mean we shy away from the goal or change our goal. If you go in with one clear goal and your team and you are all on the same page on the messaging, you're going to get an amazing amount done. So you're going to find out who, their backgrounds, who you may have in common. So LinkedIn is a great resource for that. Also, Crunchbase and a few other places, you can figure out where you may have linkages pretty quickly. And then really understanding why you want to make the connection with them. So let's say that one of the things I work on a lot is knowledge partnerships. So I am always looking for best of the best partners who make fantastic content. So not inspirational talks about feeling good about your entrepreneurial journey, but a great example is Web Congress, right? And there are many other examples of partnerships we have in place where there's very clear topics with applied examples, and everything is about you learn something, you apply it that day to make your business better. And then the content they make, whether it's videos, reading materials, etc., everything is about very clear instructions to help companies become better, to help leaders become better, to help innovators be more clear. So when I know I'm looking for a great knowledge partner, when I know I'm looking for a great potential knowledge partner, I first of all figure out who's coming. It's not about the name of the brand. It's usually about a specific person who leads partnerships, strategy. Sometimes it's a CEO, sometimes it's a master trainer. So I need to understand who that person is who may be attending the event, what their title means. Are they in a place where they're actually going to be able to make any kind of decisions? Are they in a place where they can give me feedback on my concept of how we might work together? What other partnerships do they have in place? What kind of content do they have that they may already make available that I might be able to use as a hook of saying, well, I know you have this stuff. What else do you have? How can we leverage your network, etc. So it's very, very deep. And it really comes back to, I don't just say, oh, we want you to be a knowledge partner. I go in there with a very clear agenda of, we know you do this. We know you've done this stuff in the past or you haven't. We'd love to hear how you deal with this type of situation. And here's exactly what we're looking for. And it's very clear. And to couple with that, typically after I do that research, I do an email to that person, or I get an introduction because oftentimes we're connected through someone, so that intro email is made, again, a month before I go meet them at the conference. And so we may have 1 or 2 calls before we meet in person. By the time we're at the conference, we might be celebrating that we already made a deal. But that link of, hey, I'm going to see you in Riyadh, I'm going to see you in Bogota, I'm going to see you in Tel Aviv, I'm going to see you in New York. That link of, we have this thing coming up, can we set up a time together? Let's do an intro call beforehand. It's a great way to start the conversation. So after I know, so I had set my goal, I know who the speakers are. I put in place exactly what I want to do. I'm going to reconfirm the goal. Because as I said, there might be some new speaker, some new interesting person who I find out is coming. And I want to switch up my plans of what I'm going to target. So once again, the goal is to have a single goal for your team, or it may be that I'm focusing on one kind of partnership. Somebody else on my team is focusing on sales for B2B. Somebody else on my team might be focused on sales for B2C, but each of us have a goal. And that makes it very easy, because then when I meet this person who might be a good selling prospect, I can bring them right to my team member who's in charge of that, because we each want to make deep connections. The goal, again, is not business card collection ever. So how do I prepare for the event beyond all of the emails, etc.? Because I'm going to be meeting a lot of people just to the side, and that's the more of these you go to, the more challenging it becomes, because you may have a very clear agenda for what you want to do and the major deep connections you want to make. But as you walk around, you run into the same people year after year who know you, and they bring over people to talk to you. And so how do you make sure that that goes smoothly and you're not caught up into half-hour conversations with a lot of people who are not going to end up being your target prospects? The simple ways to think about it is, depending on what you're going there for, you create your materials in advance, fast hands-offs, or you have them ready to email. So if you're there looking for a job, right? If you're there looking for new opportunities, maybe as a board member, etc., make sure your resume, your CV is already done and beautiful. Again, with the goal of, if I'm going there to be a board member of tech firms in Latin America, if that's my goal, that was a goal of a friend of mine at a conference recently. He wanted to join one new fintech firm that had raised at least $5 million from a certain region. So we already had everything set up, right? His CV was updated, his LinkedIn was updated. We knew what kind of company we were targeting exactly. And when we were making the rounds, because I was out looking for him because he had one goal, very, very simple. We found like 3 different companies. We knew some of the other investors. We knew some board members. Very, very targeted. Business cards are another really key piece of it. Does everybody use business cards? Not really, but depending on what region you're in, it's a formal thing that people are expecting. Our team has business cards, but we also do QR. We also just do card sharing through a couple of different apps, direct to phone taps. A lot of the conferences we go to have everything completely digital. So you're just tapping, sometimes you're just even tapping the lanyard. There's a lot of really, really good technologies out there. But the point is, collecting names doesn't mean anything. The one good thing about a business card or having an organized plan for contact collection is, I may meet a bunch of people just really quickly. I need to have a little note of why I met them, who I met them through, what was interesting about the conversation. People I know who are masters at networking have incredible detailed notes on spouse name, birthdays of everyone in their family, where they vacation. It's very intense. People who are professional salespeople and professional networkers, but man, they close those deals because selling and all aspects of business, it's all relationship building. So I don't go to that extreme. I go very deep with my relationships to make a win-win, not necessarily all the personal stuff. It depends on the person. If you have a booth, the amount of materials you may need for the different types of groups that will be visiting your booth, which may be manufacturers, suppliers, partners, and obviously customers, you may need a different set of collateral for each. You may want to have, and so when we do When we do booths, we have 2 screens running in our booth with demos of software for different clientele. We have, as I said before, different people on the team responsible for different groups that may be coming into the booth so that we can keep the demos as aligned to their needs as possible. When I'm looking for another type of partner that may not be the likely person to come to the booth, I'm not in the booth. I'm out doing stuff and making sure that I can bring in that larger partnership, because I know the company I'm targeting for a partnership has a booth over there and their CEO is going to be talking at on that panel in 2 hours. So I'm out there getting stuff done. But every printed piece of material, every piece of product that you may be sharing with people. Sometimes a lot of the conferences we go to have samples of different things, whether it's foods or products, even with consumer electronics. If they have like an expensive new gadget, sometimes they have some kind of little cute swag that may go along with it. It all needs to be branded properly and make sense. It needs to tell a story about your company. So one of the biggest challenge that people have when they're preparing for, whether it's an event or a conference, etc., is having a good pitch to explain exactly what you want to do in a very quick period of time. So a sales pitch is different than a partner pitch. And every person representing your company should have a very similar pitch for tackling sales or partners. And you should practice it over and over and over to make sure it's clear and everyone understands what you do and can see the win-win as quickly as possible when you speak with them. Pitch essentials. Win-win pitch hook in the first 15 to 20 seconds to grab attention. What does that mean? It means you know enough about that person or their company to have your pitch make sense. So, and we'll go through an exercise in a minute to make sure that a quick introduction, we do this. We'd love to see how our software service network can support the SME authority, your network in providing this service or this quality or good leads or value or efficiency, etc. It's a sentence, but it means you know enough to be able to make that sentence with some clarity. Then, if you can keep talking, you want to make sure that this is a conversation. It is very unlikely that any one of us enjoys having someone see your name tag, go up to you and start making a hard pitch without a chance to respond. Normally when I'm at a conference, there's something I'm working on doing. I'm working on getting to a person. I might be thinking about what the rest of my day is going to be. I might be organizing something. So it's really important for me to not be assaulted by someone trying to sell me something. Again, I'm there to make relationships. So if someone has a good 15, 20-second first hook, I'm going to smile and say, hey, cool, what's your name? And we're going to start talking. It's not going to be that they're hardcore pitching me for 2 minutes. So that first hook is, why would I give you any attention in the first place, right? Pull me in so that I can be interested to learn more, or I can nicely say, I'd love to talk to you more. Can we talk later? Or I can decide on my own to keep the conversation going. If you practice a 90-second or a 2-minute hardcore pitch where I don't get a chance to engage or ask questions or correct you on some assumption, it's very likely that I'm going to avoid you after that. It's very likely I'm not going to give you the chance to even ask me the type of information that helps you determine in the future if I'm the right fit as a person, as a company, etc. or if I know somebody that I might be able to introduce you to. So really, really key. These bullets here, first 15 to 20 seconds, grab attention, then pause and engage. Then you're going to have another 30 to 60 seconds based on what they ask to make sure to hit 1 or 2 or 3 predetermined, here are our value adds, which may have to do with their question of, oh, well, we use this. How's that different? Okay, we're different because X, Y, and Z. You've already practiced this. You'll already know it. They may say, that sounds really interesting. Our biggest challenge is whatever. Boom, you go into, here's our value add. But this is all pre-rehearsed. And you know for that type of client or that type of partner, what their pain points are already. You may even know what competitor they're already using that gives them part of a solution, right? It's all about doing the research. Nobody wants to sit there for an hour, especially at a conference where they know a bunch of people and they have their own goals and agenda. They're not there to educate you on their company. They're there to make deals and show ROI for going to the conference. The more you can take that weight off of them so that it's a win-win as early as possible, the more likely you're going to have success. So practicing leading questions where, what do you currently use for this? Or a lot of the customers that I'm talking to have this as a pain point. What's your biggest pain point with this aspect? Whatever your question is, to have them start feeling comfortable. Sometimes it's very obvious when people hit me up with a leading question, and it can turn me off if they've done no research. So when I'm at a conference, a lot of times I'm a speaker or I'm a moderator. People know I'm there. We have a big booth. It's really easy to figure out the kinds of stuff that I'm interested in. Super easy. Even if you see me across the room or you see our booth, take the second to look up the name of the booth, the name of the company, exactly what they do a minute of research, and then go talk to them. That extra minute gives you a very different perspective on whether or not you have an opportunity there or not. But taking that extra minute means your leading question is going to be a lot more targeted and not just seem like you're trying to sell to me, but that you really are interested in wanting to work together because you've taken the time. So I do a lot of training on branding and messaging. So we're going to do a couple of pieces now that are kind of key. What 3 to 5 words describe your company? Just jot it down right now. It's sometimes really challenging to do this exercise because you think your company is something very specific and it's your baby, right? So you might get really close to what it's supposed to be. But when you ask others what words they would use to describe your company, they may be very different words. So having this be an exercise you do on a regular basis with your team, with customers, with potential customers, it really helps to have clarity about what those 3 to 5 words you want people to be using are, because those words should be in your slogan, potentially on any signage, on your printed materials, potentially on your business cards, all over your website, and should be in your pitches. It's that simple. So knowing how you want your brand to be described means you owning those words and having them be part of every interaction with new people on your website, etc. And then what does that have to do with you? How aligned are your branding words with the company's? Now, if you're a founder and the company is your company, there should be some overlap. So I really care about our company being described as data-driven, excellent quality. You know, we have a very, very clear brand image for where we position ourselves. The words I would use to describe myself have to be 100% authentic and linked to that. Authenticity is a big one that I would say is part of our company brand and part of my personal brand. You need to make sure that these are compatible and consistent. Now, if you work for someone else's company and the company's brand is not 100% aligned to who you are, that might not be the best fit for you. It's really, really important. Who you are as a person and as a brand needs to be aligned. Otherwise, I mean, I've seen some very well-established brands that are not always known for quality, let's say, try to hire very well-known people who have very high quality brands. And it's an effort to use their brand to make the company look more trustworthy, etc. Really, really key to think about if your brand is worth that and how you want to manage who uses your brand for what purpose. So think that through. It's really a key part of networking, because as you go out and meet people and talk to people, you're carrying yourself in a certain way. You're representing yourself as well as the company you work with, for, or run. So when you do this exercise with your team, you should be prepared for the answers that come back. They may be all over the place. And this is really about that messaging and communication within the team to make sure everybody's working towards the same goal. Sometimes it has a little bit to do with their role and kind of how they see the world. It may have to do with how long they've been with the company and other experience they have. But the brand of the company needs to be a consistent message that everybody is sharing. And so understanding how that plays when you go into a public setting and how different the messaging may be depending on who someone speaks with. I mean, even coming into a booth, if you have 4 or 5 or 6 different people there representing lots of different aspects of your company, the experience of a potential customer may be very different. Think that through for a minute. Let's say 3 or 4 or 5 of the people on your team were in your booth, and someone comes in and says, "Hey, what do you guys do?" How different might the answers be across those people? When they say, "That sounds really interesting. I do this. How could we work together?" What skill set do those people have to know whether or not they're the person who can kind of brainstorm a couple of solutions pretty quickly? Or are they likely to say, "Oh, well, this person handles partnerships. You should go speak with him. Let me introduce you." This all takes training. It takes everybody being on the same page, everybody really being clear as to what the goals of that conference is for, of that networking event's for. So the better you train your people, the easier and more ROI you'll get out of every single one of these things. Oftentimes, I can't go to an event or a conference because I'm going to a different event or conference. There's so many events. I'm really comfortable having somebody else from my team go because they know exactly what they need to cover. If they run that area for us, they can talk on our behalf 100%. They know what to ask. They know what to say. They know when to pull me or somebody else from our team in. It's great because we spend a lot of time doing this. We go to a lot of conferences. We go to a lot of events. I sometimes have multiple members of my team on demos or calls I have for partnerships, sales, etc. So they know our language. But that means we invested the time to get all on one page with a very clear directive of what we're trying to accomplish. It also means we spend a lot of time segmenting different customers so that we know for this type of customer, these are the types of things we're looking for. And here's what we offer. Here's what we're asking. And it's very, very clear what customer segments potential partners or customers may fall into. So before we even do that call, we know. So the elevator pitch should be scripted. It should be easy to fix and edit so that when you have to make those little adjustments, you can really easily. And once you do it a lot of times, making those little adjustments is not a big deal because you're speaking to a person and seeing how they react. Really, really easy to go more or less into a certain area because of their interest. It needs to be measurable. So it's pretty easy to see the interest level and start calculating how effective one elevator pitch is on someone over another. And we tend to write down and kind of score different parts of our pitches as we're in a booth, especially for the first day, so that we can really get a handle on what's working and not working in different parts of our elevator pitch. We have had to change the script a little bit when we find out at one certain conference how many people were involved in physical product, whereas they had said it was more of a tech type conference for a first year conference. But that's okay. We knew our script, we got done. And everybody needs to be on the same page. Everyone who's representing your company, period. So the 30-second to a minute pitch, after you did the hook, you should have a clear pitch objective. Is it to make a sale, to make a partnership, to have them connect you into the company for the right person who handles procurement, whatever, right? Know exactly what the goal is. So I may start with a sentence saying, I would love to figure out who in your company manages CSR. I'd love to get connected to your chief learning officer. You can start with that. We do this. Our goal is to be able to do this, and we currently work with 500,000 startups in over 190 countries. And we love what you do. It's really exciting to us to see the value you're bringing to this market. We'd love to see how we can work together to expand your brand, right? Simple. I can do that in 20 seconds, but that's because I know exactly what the goal is. And you don't need to hide the goal. It's when you start out very directly with, here's the goal, here's what I want to accomplish, help them anchor that from the beginning so that as you go through, they may cut you off at the end and be like, oh, you don't want to talk to the chief learning officer. You actually should talk to this person because they're running this kind of initiative, and that would work really well. And our partnerships person's here, so let them understand exactly what you want. You can also just say, who would be the right person to talk to? Here's what I'd love to accomplish. That's fine. You don't have to have all the answers. In fact, if you are humble enough to show you don't have all the answers and you're going to them for a bit of advice, but you show quickly that you are real, you communicate well, you're not a jerk, there's real value opportunity for their company, they're going to help you. And if they don't help you, then you'll find somebody else, and that's fine. So here's your kind of little checklist for the quick pitching. Script it out and read it back to yourself. Step 1, does it make sense? If it makes sense to you, great. If it does not, keep going back and back and back. After that, try to cut out half of the words. And I know that seems really excessive, but this needs to be a very concise pitch. You only have a few seconds to really make an impact, to engage them, but that means you have to be as direct as I just was. We do this. Who at your company would be the right person to talk to about us working together to do X? Simple, simple, simple. But a lot of times we get caught up in giving people the background and everything about the company and all the things we do, and we're known for this product and that. No, simple, simple, simple. This is about engaging them to start a deep conversation. Keep cutting back the wording so that it's simple. And I mean, I've seen people go from literally, I'm not exaggerating, 20-minute pitches to 1-minute pitches. And the 1-minute pitch was better and made more sense than 20 minutes of detail. Make it simple so a normal person will understand. Not to mention the fact that the person you may be meeting with at the conference may not be at all involved with what you do. They may not be part of that activity in the company. So the more clear and easy it is, don't use technical jargon. Keep it really, really easy. Practice on people who don't even know the industry. That's how easy it needs to be, okay? So activity, 30-second pitch. You want to hit these points, right? Hi, I'm Susan Amat. I work with Venture Hive. I focus on building entrepreneur and innovation programs so that people all over the world can stay where they are, stay with their families, and build world-class companies. Boom. I'm interested in talking to you about whatever, right? Very simple. Be a human being first. Don't push stuff. So you can spend a few minutes doing this kind of thing as a group. And I think it would be actually a great use of time. I know I'm virtual, sorry, but I think it'd be a great use of time for this to be something that you practice with lots of different types of people over the course of the next week. You're going to tweak it substantially many times, and that's okay. And you'll find that for certain types of people, your pitch will be a little longer. You may speak more slowly. You may spend a little bit more time on what problem you're solving because of their background or their region or what their company does. Have little modifications already at your disposal because you've practiced them. So the big lesson learned here for having done this for, oh my gosh, how old am I? A very long time. Having gone through many, many companies and programs that I've started and run and grown over a long time, is I'm so close to what I do that I have to take an extra step back to make sure I'm always speaking from the perspective of what helps the other person. It took me a long time to learn that my job when I meet people is not to force what I want to say on them, but to understand their need and share only what will help them understand if we're a fit. That's it. In doing so, I'm going to see if they're a fit for me as well. Because my team and I work with very specific types of clients. We work with serious people who want data-driven programs and operations. That's it. So we spend a lot of time vetting who we work with for long periods of time sometimes, because it's too much work to work with people who don't want to work hard. It's not worth it to us. So helping your team to understand that it's not a good thing to force whatever they want to say on other people. That turns people off. It's about listening. It's about doing the research, helping whoever that partner, client, etc. might be, helping them make the connection in their head that there could be a win-win here. It's only worth it if there's a win-win, period. Challenge number 2 with conferences and networking events in general, a contact collection plan. Sometimes you meet so many people. I've come back from conferences with stacks, hundreds of business cards. Nightmare. In the old days, we had and we still have it somewhere, a card scanner so that once a conference was over, all the cards would be scanned. Does that mean that somebody is going through and checking the notes on everyone and doing the proper follow-ups? No. So the goal here is not collecting cards or collecting contacts. It's understanding how we're going to make sure that the data, their contact information, is then usable for follow-ups. It's all about the follow-up. When you collect business cards, which exist They're there. They're going to stick around for a while. We've actually had a few companies go through our program with business card solutions so that there's never another business card again. And at the end of the day, the business card says a lot about someone. So I'm okay with people still having them, but use them. If you're going to carry around a little piece of card, use it. What notes are you taking? Who's the person? Where are they from? Where are they based? Because the address on the card may be different than where they live most of the time. What was the connection? Who introduced you? You know, what did they say their need is? What date are they coming back from vacation to do a follow-up? Whatever those notes are, keep them somewhere. If you're not going to write it on the card, you can do it in a WhatsApp. We've gotten very good in my team about having a conference thread on WhatsApp or a note system where if we meet somebody cool, we're sharing the card with the notes there, and then they're automatically digitalized, collected somewhere, organized later. All that matters though is the follow-up. So you have to have a clear follow-up plan. If your goal is everybody you meet that day, you follow up that evening or night with an email, awesome. Sometimes that doesn't happen because you have 2 receptions and then a dinner and then an after dinner meeting. Fine. And then a very early breakfast meeting. Cool, no problem. The backup then is to make sure you have different organizational systems for people you were able to follow up with right away, or priority follow-ups. So it might be that a few of the people you met today are really important priority and you want to get them in your process as quickly as possible. Maybe you have 2 or 3 decks you already had ready to go. You might have pre-written emails. So great to meet you today. The 2 paragraphs about what the company does are already pre-written. You might have 1 or 2 areas in the email where it was like, so glad that this person introduced us. Great talking to you about Whistler. Great talking to you, right? Make it as personal as possible. Don't have it be a cut and paste ever. Take the minute to do it the right way. If you're going to do your 1 or 2 priorities right away, cool. Save the rest for before you leave the conference or the Monday you come back from the event. That's fine. Have that plan in place beforehand. Have your emails written beforehand. Have the deck done beforehand. So it's just an issue of forwarding it. It could even be that somebody back at your office, you're SMSing or WhatsApping them a picture of the card and say, please follow up with this person, send them this deck. They're following up 5 minutes after you met the person, right? That is a fantastic way to make sure that you're remembered, because really good salespeople, really good partnerships people, they're on their email when they're at a conference 3, 4, 5 times a day because they're doing those emails and they will respond. And I've been very lucky because oftentimes I'll even do a follow-up from the booth on my phone. Great to meet you. Would love to figure out if we can find a few minutes together tomorrow when this person's coming too. They'll follow up. I'll have a meeting the next day because I followed up so quickly. They couldn't commit to it when we were live, but because I did the email, they had something to like push to this other person joining from their team. Next day I'm meeting. That's all because of follow-up. You can try to ask them for a virtual mentoring session, doing research online, and then giving them, oh, I saw this. I thought that might be interesting to you. Normal outreach type activities. It's all about cultivating the relationship. There may not be a fit right now, but if you start the conversation and say, we're working on this in about, in 2 quarters, we'll have this. I'd love to pick your brain about the feature set we're looking at deploying. Could you find half an hour to help us think this through? If they say yes, you have an in. You have a great in to have that call, get feedback, do a follow-up, thank them, have another call after you start deploying some of these things. We can't thank you enough for your feedback from a few months ago. Here's what we're looking at now. Can we show it to you? We'd love to see if this might be a fit for you, or if you can make any recommendations for future features. right? It's all about creating the relationship. Now, virtual is different, as you can see. Nobody's coming up to me after this session to talk to figure out how I can help them, right? When it's a virtual session, you have a totally different set of tools available to you to make sure you have that connection. So why do we go to how do we use virtual events properly? We'll talk about in a minute. How do you do virtual networking well? Really, really, really simple things. LinkedIn is a great resource, and you can, because of the connectivity that they've created, you can typically find people who may be 1 or 2 degrees apart from you through your network, who are the exact right people you want to talk to. You can even figure out organizational structures of companies you may be targeting because they have the company level one, and you can see who's in there. It's fantastic. So when you're thinking about how to make these things real, it really comes back to doing the research beforehand. It comes back to making sure you have the materials ready and you know exactly what to ask, because sometimes people can just ignore an email. They can very easily ignore a LinkedIn request. They can very easily ignore anything that's virtual. So make sure your hook is clean. If you're not getting a response to an email, to a LinkedIn request, to whatever, you may have to have somebody do an intro that they already know. It's fine to do that, but make sure you understand how best to engage with that specific person and why. The big differences here with in-person, it's a lot more natural. People see you as a human being. They make eye contact. Unless they're a total jerk, they're going to engage with you. And that's okay if they're busy. And maybe that person is not the right person you should be talking to. But if they're decent and the company has a culture of really creating relationships, they'll put you in touch with the right person. But it's very hard to be ignored in a live setting, especially if you've practiced, have a good pitch, come off as a likable person, etc. But you're creating a relationship there. With virtual, it's really, really, really hard to do. The good thing about virtual is you can have timestamps based on the emails. Everything is like preset, so you can actually do follow-ups on a regular basis. And after you do a couple of follow-ups, 2, 3, 4 follow-ups, and with no response, people will get a little guilty and they'll follow up. So that's a great way to do it. We do a lot of screen share demos. We do a lot of video calls, so you see a human being and you interact with them. Sometimes I'm introduced to someone in an email and we'll link on LinkedIn shortly thereafter. Before the demo happens, I'll do another email saying, you know, we're so excited to meet you. We've been looking at what you do for a while. Hopefully we can make a win-win around this. Here's a little bit more information on the kind of stuff we do. So I don't wait until I have that one-on-one time. I'm giving them some information. That way I can actually see what they're reading ahead of time. If there's actual interest, it just makes the conversation that much easier. But as usual, I'm really understanding how to make the win-win way before even the first outreach is done. Another way to do it is when you create video content and share it through social media, people can feel like they have a connection with you much more easily. It might be that you make some very quick videos about what you're doing, case studies, etc. Sharing those as well really sometimes is a great way for people to see, to assess the chemistry, if you will, between your company or you with what they're doing. A lot of times that brand piece is a really important part of who they do follow up with. So the goal in virtual, 4 steps. First is awareness that your company exists, right? Awareness that there's an opportunity to do something together. You have to then pull them in to be interested. Then you have to make sure that there's a clear decision for them, whether it's we want to, I mean, I just did a demo yesterday with someone where we said, well, there's a spectrum here. On one end, it can look like this. On the other end, it can look like this. We'd love to have this, which is a little farther towards the other end. Really making it easy for them to say, well, that part won't work, but I think we can start here. And then by Q3, we'll be able to get up to something like that. Awesome. Because that person, they want to make a deal with me. They know the value I offer. I know exactly what I made it very clear exactly what I needed for them. So it was very easy for them to make a decision on a first call. And then boom, action. So now the ball's in my court. Somebody from our team is building out a super simple MOU for stage one of a kind of 4-stage partnership. They'll have that today, tied in exactly to everything we talked about on the call, because we gave them enough information about our organization. We showed them that we were really clear on exactly what we wanted. We got them interested because we do cool stuff, and it's aligned very, very well with kind of the stage beyond where they currently are working. And we made it really easy for them to say yes, because it's truly a win-win. So all of these pieces that we've been talking about with business cards, pamphlets, sheets, etc., with virtual networking, there isn't that tactile piece. And I frankly prefer there not being a tactile piece, so that's cool. But that means you have to have everything else ready to go, digital format. Having a few videos, as I said, and there's fantastic resources for that. There's companies like Ross Schwartz where you can make really cool animated videos that are fun and show different aspects of what you do. Again, it could be a pre-made 5-minute demo of some features of your platform that then goes into a longer, more customized demo for them. It can be a one sheet. It can be a certain part of your web page that gives some case studies. Prepare it in advance so that when that call is over, you're saying, so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for your time today. As we discussed, here's a couple of things that I think are aligned to the direction we were talking about. Organize it beforehand. And always have an ask ready to go. The number one thing of having a good pitch deck is having a good ask. Same with any kind of networking. Could we have a follow-up call? Can we schedule a demo? Can you introduce me to that person? Keep it simple, know exactly what you want to get from them. And then, as I said, all about following up. And you might do a follow-up and they don't get back to you. Do it again and do it again and do it again. There is no shame in being someone who loves their business and wants to create value for a partner or customer. If it's stalking and harassment, that's horrible. If it's we see a win-win and we can work together on it, that's always how it should be. And you have to have goals around this. So if you're meeting 20 people at a conference, you may only focus on making 2 sales out of it, or 1 sale and 1 partnership. That's fine. Have those goals coming in. It's not about business card collection. It's about deep relationships that turn into business for you, sales, partnerships, etc. So I know that was a lot. That was a lot. I'm open for a couple of questions if we have time. Ooh, chat. Let's see. Any questions, guys? Wait, is somebody asking a question or is somebody talking in the background with the mic open? Okay, well, I know that was a lot of information, okay? But when you know exactly what you want to get out of a situation, especially, and again, this is not just about business. If you're going there to find a job, knowing exactly the kind of role you're interested in and having your resume aligned to, I want to become a scrum master for a company doing B2B, international B2B work. The more clear you are, you're saving everyone a lot of time to make sure you're going to be hired for the right type of job. So you may not be a fit for the first person you talk to, but if you know what you're asking for exactly, they might say, oh, you should go talk to these people. That fits exactly what you're looking for. But when you don't put it out there, you're not going to get it.
One
Well,
question.
sure.
First of all, thank you for sharing your best practices. I would just like to hear the practice that you have given usually works, I guess, in the Western world, but for the Eastern part, Eastern countries, where cultural differences. Do you have your personal stories where this it didn't work and you have to be more careful because they may be
So
networking in Japan or somewhere else?
So I work all over the world, and in Asian countries and Middle Eastern countries, the relationship building part is even more important. So, and Latin America. So I can't just say in these regions, the relationship building is more important. Outside of the US and Canada and a few European countries, virtual is very hard to do to start, very hard to do, because they want that meet and greet, they want that face-to-face interaction, and sometimes they want many face-to-face interactions to create trust, which is fantastic, because once you start really building a brand, you are just as protective of your brand as they are. And having that longer term conversation over many, many meetings, sometimes over many months or years, so that we are sure we're aligned on long term, I think is fantastic. And that's how we've worked with many of our partners. I think that right now, because there is going to be potentially a lot less travel and a lot less possibility of doing international face-to-face work, and even potentially local face-to-face work for the foreseeable future. This is a time where understanding how to build out your resiliency as an individual and a company, and use different methods that may not be the norm in the region, but will become the norm in the future. I think this is a great time to invest in those skills. So to answer your question more directly, it took me a long time when I started 20 years ago, when I started doing a lot more international work, to really go deep into creating relationships, because I would go to a country for a week and not go back to that country again the next month. Sometimes not go back to that country for 3 or 4 years. So the onus was on me to do follow-up emails, to send little gifts, to make sure that I was staying in really good touch with those people. And it was a lot of work. And to this day, it's very rare, other than Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan, I'm not going to the same country more than once a year. I mean, there are times I go to 30 or 40 countries in a year. So what I end up doing as far as creating those face-to-face relationships and making them real is putting the time in. We set up formal meetings, sometimes having 2 or 3 meetings over the course of the week that I'm there. And then a lot of times I have my guests and friends from Egypt or Brazil or Argentina or Qatar or wherever physically coming to Miami to do follow-ups as well. So it takes a lot more time, but as I'm sure are already seeing, and for any of you who are doing international work or want to expand and create a brand internationally, you're going to do a lot of virtual networking, and it might be strange for you and it might be harder because you don't know the people, but that means your email correspondence, your social media correspondence, all of your materials have to come from a person. They have to be real and show your personality and allow you to come through, as opposed to being what may have been the standard in the past, which is a more official kind of arm's length, here's our business. When you put your personality into the emails, into the interactions, you can start to create relationships that are very, very deep and strong, despite not having spent a lot of time or any time in person with someone. Is that helpful?
Yep.
I mean, the times are changing, so we all need to start looking at how to make the most of the incredible technology that's out there to make wonderful things happen fast. And I have to, I'm really proud of the Peak team for doing a virtual session. This is how the vast majority of the programming we do is. And I can tell you, I've made incredible contacts through doing virtual sessions. Somebody from my team or I will do a workshop. I'll get a great private DM from someone with a question. We do a follow-up. Next thing I know, I'm meeting that person in their country 4 months later, connecting them to someone else. So it's all about taking the initiative, understanding what you want from someone, making it really clear, making it easy for people to connect with you and be helpful, following up. When someone gives you advice, tell them what happened. You know, write that email and say, thank you so much for that advice. I did this. Here's what happened. Really appreciate your help. No ask, just follow up. Show that I can trust you. Make a relationship. So much of this is just trust. If you can build trust with people, you know they're going to follow through. If they say they're going to do something, they do it. They always do it at the level you expect. It's very, very easy to support people and go out of your way for them when you have that trust built. Any other questions, guys? Because ideally I can go back to sleep for an hour before my next call.
Okay. Thank you.
No, but if anybody else has another question, I'm happy to, I mean, any of the virtual callers, anybody have a question? Okay. Oh, somebody unmuted. What's your question?
Bye. Thank you.
Oh, wait, this person unmuted.
Where?
AAITBAEVA, unmuted.
Okay. Anja.
1 minute. I'm gonna write them. Do you have a question?
Всех девочек собрал, да? Вот так.
Anja, do you have a question?
Okay, well, have a great weekend, and hopefully I'll be seeing you guys live in the coming few months once travel restrictions are lifted. So have a great weekend, and if you have questions, the Peak team is definitely there doing wonderful things for you. So we're really, really thrilled to be working with them. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.